Vulnerability management. Control B.5. And it exists because of a simple, brutal question. When a critical flaw is published tomorrow morning, how fast can you tell whether you're running it? Here's the vulnerability that proves it. The 9th of December, 2021. A researcher discloses a flaw in Apache Log4j, a Java logging library embedded in millions of applications. It is scored 10.0 out of 10, the maximum possible. The head of CISA called it the most serious vulnerability she had seen in her entire career. And the flaw had been sitting in the library for about 8 years. The mechanism was almost absurdly simple. Log4j had a feature that let a log message pull in dynamic content from an external source. So if an application logged anything a user typed, an attacker could type a special lookup string into a username box, a search field, or an HTTP header. Log4j would immediately connect to the attacker's server, download Java code, and run it. One string, and the machine was theirs. But the vulnerability wasn't the real story. The real story was that most organizations could not answer whether they were even affected. Log4j was usually a transitive dependency. It wasn't in your code, it was inside a library you used, which used another library that included it. Most software inventories didn't go that deep. Companies found out they were exposed by reading vendor advisories, not by querying their own systems. So what is vulnerability management? It is the whole lifecycle. Identify the vulnerabilities across your estate. Assess them in context. Prioritize by actual risk. Remediate against a deadline. And then verify that the fix genuinely landed. It is broader than patching. Patching is one of the treatments, not the program. Without it, you are exposed on 4 fronts. Attackers begin scanning for published vulnerabilities within hours of disclosure. If you have shadow inventory, you cannot even measure your exposure. If you remediate without verifying, you carry residual risk you believe is closed. And if you run one flat deadline for everything, a 10.0 on an internet-facing server gets treated the same as a medium severity issue on an internal one. During Log4Shell, the same gaps appeared everywhere. No software bill of materials, so no visibility into transitive dependencies. Asset inventory gaps, which meant scanners never even looked at some internet-facing systems. One flat 30-day SLA for all critical vulnerabilities, which was hopelessly wrong for this. Remediation blocked waiting on vendors to ship fixes. And mitigations that were applied and then never verified, some turned out to be incomplete in certain configurations, so teams believed they were protected when they were not. So what does good look like? An asset inventory with a software catalog you can actually query. You should be able to ask which systems run Log4j version 2 and get an answer in minutes. Authenticated vulnerability scans at least monthly across internal and internet-facing systems, because unauthenticated scans miss a large share of findings. Prioritization driven by exploitability, internet exposure and asset criticality, not the CVSS score alone. Vendor advisories monitored and assessed against your inventory. And post-patch scanning to verify closure, rather than trusting a deployment record. How does an auditor test it? You request the scan results for the period and check the frequency, the scope, and whether scans were authenticated. You sample critical and high findings and calculate the time from discovery to verified remediation against the SLA, and check whether exceptions were documented and approved. You compare the asset inventory against discovery scans to find systems nobody is scanning. You review the prioritization methodology for context inputs. And you look for critical vulnerabilities aging past 90 days with no exception and no compensating control. That is a finding. 5 lessons. 1. Build a software bill of materials that includes transitive dependencies. Regulators are increasingly mandating it, and it is the foundation of any rapid response. 2. Scan your internet-facing attack surface continuously, because that is where exploitation starts. 3. Treat a 9 or 10 severity on an exposed system as an emergency with its own escalation path, not a normal ticket. 4. Verify remediation with a scan, not a deployment record, especially when the flaw sits in a dependency. And 5. Track CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. Anything on that list is being exploited right now. Vulnerability management is Control B.5 in the ITGC framework. I'm walking through every one with the breach that proves why it matters every week at marcoweb.org. Subscribe to get them in your inbox, and try the free ITGC audit tool.